Ahoy! I got banned today. This is my ban right here. Not a joke. It's for 7 days. It says 6 days, but it's actually 7 days for transferring the level 21 character with 2000 gold into a PvP fresh start world. And I will start off by saying I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this ban. It happened. I knew the risks and it was somewhat expected that it might happen, especially after I also posted a video saying, hey, I didn't get banned so far. I deleted the character between then and the actual ban, but, you know, it's a punishment that was kind of expected to happen to some degree, or at least I wanted to see if it would happen, so fair enough. I'm going to talk about what AGS has to say about it, because that's one thing, and then I'm going to talk about what's actually happening, what players are experiencing, because that's a little bit different. Let's begin with their post. They're saying, "Hello adventurers, after today's maintenance there was an issue in which unique per-world rules were not being applied correctly. This issue allowed transfers of characters into and out of worlds where transfers were not intended to be possible. The issue was identified and resolved, and the team has been hard at work to mitigate any impacts on world economics." So, world economy, that's gonna be big deal. I can't fully verify that part at the moment because obviously I can't log in and check things right now, but as far as I'm hearing, that's not fully resolved yet. They're working at it. The following actions are being taken to rectify these issues. All accounts with characters that transferred during the window when the issue was live and those who took part in trading with transferred characters have been temporarily suspended. And here's worth noting that this also includes transferring from Legacy to Fresh Start, non-PvP version. The length of temporary suspension is determined based upon the actions taken by the player account that impacted the affected worlds and are subject to change. This is interesting. There seems to be some degree of blanket suspension at the moment, and it'll be adjusted further down the line, I'm guessing, based on them saying that those are subject to change. All characters created on seasonal worlds during the period when the issue was live are deleted, as the characters did not have seasonal rules applied to them correctly. Makes a lot of sense because they could create unflagged characters. And that also includes the character that I transferred over because they never chose a faction. Territories claimed on the seasonal world during the period the issue was live are reverted to unclaimed status. Very important because people transferred over the characters with a lot of gold and claimed a lot of territories. Player-to-player trading and the trading post remain temporarily disabled on standard and seasonal worlds and will be restored as soon as possible. This, by now, there was another fix afterwards, has mostly been re-enabled, and you can trade, I think, at least on the trading post, and I think also trading as normal in most worlds. Trading post contracts from affected characters are cancelled. Item and coin traded between players or put into company balances by those who took part in the unintended transfers are removed. So there's going to be a lot of backwards movement that needs to happen here to fully resolve that, because I'm sure there was a lot of gold, a lot of coin that was being shuffled around. Companies created by those who took part in the unintended transfers have been removed, which obviously also removes whatever gold was in those company storages. Players who used a transfer token during the time period the issue was live are sent back to their original worlds and will receive a transfer token at a later date. Kind of interesting that they're not punishing players here by taking away the transfer token that they used, but actually giving that back, but I guess you've got your warning shot with the ban anyways. We're doing a phased approach to re-enabling worlds and will post updates as they're available, and the team will continue to monitor these worlds. We sincerely apologize for the inconvenience caused by these issues and extended downtime, and appreciate everyone's patience and the continued support as we work through them. And then some worlds were brought into emergency maintenance and whatnot, and eventually they were re-enabled, and so was trading. If you enjoyed the video so far, consider subscribing and clicking the bell, and if you'd like to support me further, then you can do so on Patreon and get early trading tips in return. But now let's talk about what actually happened specifically for the players, because it's not quite as simple as you would think here. For example, keep in mind that there are some stories here that we cannot verify, but they do seem spicy to say the least. We've got one person here, for example, on the New World Discord saying that they got a 7-day temp ban and they haven't transferred a character. All they remembered was someone giving them 10 free golden scarabs to help them last night, and they accepted them, and because of that they got a ban. And I got a very similar message from Mootman, an old company mate, who asked me if I got temp banned, and said, he didn't transfer and still got a 6-day ban. And I was like, okay, did you trade with anyone or get anything from the trading post? He said, yeah, I traded mats from a random. That's enough to possibly get you banned. And this makes sense because people are using that method to try and kind of hide away items by trading them to other characters and then maybe trading them back to another character, blah, blah, blah. But the problem is that you can also intentionally get other people banned with that. And that is not the first time that has happened, by the way. You can just trade someone else some mats they're not supposed to have, and that can result in them getting a ban. Now, what is worth keeping in mind here with the whole ban screen, there is the option to contest your ban as well. And if you believe that you've just been wrongly caught in the crossfire entirely, then obviously you have every right to contest that ban. If you're going to get a legitimate response to that is another question, but there have been cases in the past at least where contesting the ban has gotten people unbanned, and even today some people have said that they have contested these and have gotten a message and been allowed to play again. So this is an option, but there's absolutely no guarantee that it'll work. It goes even further than that. DJ Diana on the official Discord claims that they got banned for creating a character on a PvP world while the world wasn't PvP flagged. So they effectively didn't transfer a character, but just created a character that shouldn't be on that world and got the 6-day or rather 7-day ban as well. Again, we can't verify this kind of stuff. It might not be true, but given that people got banned for trades and given that these characters are probably identified as some kind of error, I could absolutely imagine this being true. There are even further claims that people who got buy orders got bans as well. Very, very hard to verify something like that. Japira on my Patreon Discord also described another situation of somebody else, so this is a third-hand story here basically, but she was transferring one of her characters from a legacy server to a fresh start server, and then when she got back, she got the message that the characters are not allowed there, and she was asked to choose a server with only her old server being there as a choice, Nisa. And she took that choice, and then suddenly she was on Nisa level 0 with empty storages, and the complete character was just reset. And this is one of those outcomes where I'm not entirely surprised that that would happen to some people, that some bugs would be happening with this semi-rollback or whatever you want to call it. And this is also a big reason why I didn't even consider moving one of my high-level characters to the fresh start server, which I would have really liked to do. And there's a reason for that. That's because something that was brought up by multiple people on the New World Discord, specifically Zeeks and Robbo talked about this, being that while it's one thing that these transfers onto the PvP servers are a problem, the AP situation is very bad in general because we have a lot of servers that are basically not usable, and we have those legacy servers which are just completely dead and unplayable. You won't find a group for anything there unless you have a dedicated group in a Discord that maybe does Sandworm together or something. And those characters are just completely wasted and stuck there forever. And really, I think a lot of AP players are hoping that they could move their old characters into the fresh start, into the combined server with the console players eventually, and just have those servers merged together, all together, because it effectively would be so much better for the AP Southeast community if everyone was just on the same server, aside of the obvious PvP server. Like, yeah, the economy would probably take a hit, and I was going to talk about that yesterday, didn't actually end up doing it. That hit, however, is smaller than the benefits that a region as small as AP Southeast would be getting from just having everything on one server together, in my opinion anyways. Zeeks also made the argument that the punishment should be less for someone transferring from Legacy to Fresh because there was no communication about it. It's a difficult one because I think it was still relatively obvious that this was happening all of a sudden without any announcements, and probably not intended, but at the same time, it wasn't really the player's fault. It was more so AGS fault that it even happened in the first place. So if somebody assumed, oh, the label's gone, we can move it now, wouldn't blame them entirely either, even though I think it's less likely in comparison. There are some claims that some people only got 3-day bans, and I think this was initially the case for Male Oreo as well. I'm not sure if those bans have now been scaled up to 6-day bans as well. Again, they said they're going to look into the duration of the bans later on. Personally, I expect that most people will just get that 7-day total, just as a warning to not do something like that again. And Kay responded about the whole resource situation. The answer here was it's not a one-size-fits-all for returning items. In general, yes, items and gold will be returned, but there are instances where that won't be the case depending on how nefarious the player was. And then also describes a scenario where people were absolutely exploiting in the past, and Kay was just invisible watching them, and the moment that they got caught, they would claim that they were about to record it. So, you know, they are obviously also aware that a lot of people will claim innocence here, even though they're absolutely not. Now, what I will say is that as much as I am okay with the ban, I think the current ban duration is questionable because it is really not discriminating between different kinds of actions at all yet. My character that was level 21 and had 2,000 gold to its name is apparently the same ban time as a character that came over with 5,000 or more gold and resources and just completely obliterated the economy and bought multiple territories. So yeah, that should be somewhat adjusted. And I always use previous bans as a reference point here, where I believe in the past it just made massive mistakes when it comes to banning. I will always bring up the musket exploit that was really difficult to pin down and find the people that were doing it and really show it off, and the people involved partially just got one-day bans. This is my first ban, by the way. As far as I'm aware, like normally they don't hand out 7-day bans right away. I think it's normally scaling from a 1-day ban to a 3-day ban to a 7-day ban. So I don't know what that means for escalating bans, if everyone who did this is just one step away from being banned for a month now, or again, if this is going to change with the adjustments. Also, what happens when you contest it. Really no saying what exactly will go down there, but again, I think back in the day there were certain cases that should have been way more drastic, and they should have been hit way harder for very serious exploit that you know, made the game unplayable for other players and unwinnable in wars and so on. Whereas this one is mostly an economy one, and from what I know with AGS is they really hate economy exploits more than anything. I think this is potentially a bit of a fear based on the jokes that were being made about it around launch when there were so many economy issues. But yeah, generally they've been a lot more heavy-handed with economy exploits than they have been with mechanics exploits and in-game exploits of that kind. And that seems to be a continuing trend here, which I think both should be equally heavily punished. The overall situation is pretty funny in AP Southeast right now because a lot of people are banned right now, because for other servers, for other regions, this whole thing happened at a relatively low population time, but at AP Southeast just happened in prime time, so everyone heard about it as well, and a lot of people tried it in comparison. So war announcements at the moment are going out with, in case you're not banned, show up. I'll see if I contest my ban or just focus on making videos and play some Marvel Rivals instead. I'm still not in a rush. I've got plenty of time to still do PvP servers afterwards. The ones in AP are relatively dead anyways, and I'm pretty sure there's not going to be much going on for the next week. So we'll see how it goes in that regard. But yeah, I'm relaxed when it comes to that. I'm not super phased about this ban, but I thought it was worth talking about how this situation is unfolding. We're still not getting a full rollback, but they apparently seem to have the tools to try and mitigate most of it, though so far people are saying there are things that are slipping through the cracks. We'll find out if they catch those later on. If there are more updates to the situation, I will of course update you, so consider subscribing and clicking the bell if you haven't yet. And if you'd like to support me further, you can do so on Patreon, and maybe I stream on Twitch as well, twitch.tv/DukeSloth. Probably would be Marvel Rivals and not New World for the next week, because I can't stream that right now. Thanks for watching. DukeSloth out.